G'day friends and fans, welcome to Dave Talk Stuff. Ukraine War update for the 21st of May 2025. In a blitzkrieg style attack. Yes, I know that is a bit of a cliche these days, but I know. The Russian forces advanced quickly to take Kalenyky, and a timed operation that probably been building for a long time. That Russian forces broke through the lines near Seversk some time ago, but Ukraine has layered defences. There are trenches after trenches after trenches. Nor can Russia advance so far and so fast without running into the major line of Ukrainian defences. So they have to push back incrementally the Ukrainians, costing them time and money to achieve their goals, even though both sides know what those goals are and have been outlaid time and time again before us, and that is Donetsk, well, not so much. Oh, sorry. Lugansk, Donetsk, Zaporozhye, and not so much, but, as an add-on, Kherson. But, lately it's been focused on Donetsk, and we don't know whether or not, how much, but there are talks that Russia was willing to not continue with the operations in Zaporozhye and Kherson if Ukraine gave up Donetsk. That has not happened, of course, and many are skeptical about Europe's negotiations with Russia. Because remember, they announced some time ago, I think it was already a month ago, operations for a nuclear drill in which Russian rocket forces race into Belarus, put the missiles in silos, start the countdown launch timer at 0. They pop the missiles out of the tube, put them back in their launch truck, in their mobile transport trucks. You've probably seen them, the big, 28-wheeler with the huge canister on the back, and then they pop back into wherever they secret underground bunker. It's secret to us, not secret to the guys with the eyes in the sky. And thus we have every year a paranoia. Now, in previous years, Ukraine has never overreacted, but this year they severely overreacted. They put around 10,000 men on their border. They launched drones, which crash landed in Lithuania, causing error alerts. And a Russian drone monitoring Ukrainian forces was shot down. Now, it contained Now, here they're claiming it's an R-60 missile. They've changed the story again. Previously, it was a Russian drone. Now they're claiming it's an R-60 missile. Either way, a lot of Russian batteries, a lot of your batteries, a lot of people's batteries around the world contain substances that may have radioactive isotopes. And some long-life batteries do have radioactive isotopes in them. They usually come in canisters with little radioactive symbols on them. Some of your watch batteries, that luminescence? That's radium. The stuff that caused Madame Curie to lose her hair. Now, I'm not saying all people lose their hair to radiation, of course, but yeah, this story actually changed. They're claiming it's a warhead now of an R-60. Really. That's the battery pack out of a Russian drone. You actually see where they've cut the wires. Yeah. See, they give you these minimum soundbite stories and mention buzzwords like radiation, depleted uranium. You know, the United States uses depleted uranium, right? You know, the Abrams tanks and those high velocity impact rounds. And probably many other munitions we don't know about. All right, so enough with Ukraine's paranoia about radiation and their attempts to create fear-mongering. In the buffer zone, we have a lot of activity as we go around the map. The offensive at Kupiansk has made small gains in the north of Kupiansk, but laterally, not vertically, so they haven't entered Kupiansk, merely spread out more troops along the front, probably in preparation for spearhead attacks. Now, there's nothing really going on here. Lyman is the usual back and forth without any change. But west of Seversk, the big area from here to here, this big empty area here, the Russians have made a huge spearhead push and have taken a large chunk compared to previous days. Now, which puts the forces north and east of Kalenyky. As you can see, the fighting that still got the marker from the previous fighting marked this, so we can actually say a day ago they were fighting here, 12 hours ago, so they were fighting here, and boom, they shelled these positions. There were directional clashes, and the Ukrainians were overwhelmed and pushed back. Same here, pushed back, causing this to move, markers to shift. The Ukrainians haven't made much changes to the maps elsewhere, but as we go around the map, as you can see, there are changes here. The Russians have moved, have advanced in other areas. Now, they've been increasing here as well. They've taken half of Berstock. They've taken a little bit, but most of the town, is there. It's only a little bit. This, as you can see, it's only a fraction of the town where the Russians. Same here. Russians have set out positions, which sort of moves the map a little bit, but has moved Russian forces closer to here. Ukrainians have held out here, but the Russians have moved here and here. They've held out here and here, but the Russians have advanced here, taking more of, what's it called? Doro. This is just a rail station here at Doring, but south of which, the Russians have increased their troop presence and have taken a little bit of territory here and here. They're still pushing on, pushing past. Some of Nova, most of Nova has fallen, but some of Nova is still in the Ukrainian hands. There are still Ukrainian positions along here, but the Ukrainians have pushed out here have been pushed out of here as well, and they've been able to stop the Russian push elsewhere. But the Russians have increased their positions along here as well. Probably trying to secure a second crossing. Although there is there's one here which appears to be secured, and one here which they do not yet, as the Ukrainians are probably holding them back here and holding them off back here. Now, for some time, most of Moldavsky has been in Ukrainian hands. Now, most of it is in Russian hands. I think it's like this town is like split because it's like a border town or whatever between the oblast, you know. It's rare, but in many countries when a town gets split by a border, it does have a different name on each side, but it's really one town. The Russians here appear to have been held back again in their attempts to retake Nova, but no push here. It's just, again, clashes at Ivankia. There's clashes all the time, don't forget. But there is a push here at fake airport. It does really look like an airport, doesn't it? Now here, as you know, the Russians did lose some land, but they've taken it back here. They haven't taken all of it back that they've lost here, but they are pushing back. And Ukrainians are actually holding on here. Even though they have the Russians at their back, I don't understand, but for whatever reason, maybe it's a manpower thing, because Russia won't increase its manpower for small offensives, only for the large pushes. And I guess it makes sense given that there are no secrets on the battlefield. Like, you move, everything is tracked. Like, I have no idea how many people they can track simultaneously, but I think that pretty much both sides have huge data centers spinning 24/7, counting objects or thermal changes or whatever. But how detailed, I don't know. It would depend on how many drones that each side deploys per day. But based on the information, I would say they could easily track all at least 100,000 positions within a meter accuracy on the NATO side, and about, I think the Russian system is more like 3 meters, though they claim better. We do know there are a lot of inaccuracies. If they weren't, and Putin's been pushing hard to try and get this fixed. But yeah, because accuracy, you increase the accuracy, you increase the lethality rate. And again, it appears to be a little bit of land lost here for a lot of land gained elsewhere. Again, that's a redeployment of Russian forces. But the Russians always seem to push back, wherever they get a Ukrainian pushback, somewhere they leak through. And they are slowly choking off Strav and Zal, although it is only the outskirts for now of those two towns. The Russians are pushing here, and they are pushing here and here, but for now, it's been just slow incremental increases, nothing significant. But you can see now, they're further past, they've almost swallowed this town. Now, they've been here before, and they've been all the way up to Orky before. Again, lots of Ukrainian fields are occupied by trenches with bodies from both sides, graves nearby. Some of these towns have multiple graves and nothing else. There's a lot of these towns in this area are empty and have been for years. Now, there's been ongoing shelling of positions at Zaporozhye. Dnipro was hit again while recording. Kryvyi was hit a few hours ago. Odessa was hit earlier today. There was a missile strike. Now they say Odessa, but it's not Odessa. It's Birod or Vinsky. It's a huge port. It's actually bigger than Odessa, if you can see. It's a closed port. Now, I think it once was home to military ships, and Odessa was a civilian port. But I think now, with so many Ukrainian ships sunk, there are only small boats left, and those have been replaced every month by Britain. The British are pumping out these fiberglass boats. Perfect for the Black Sea, though. They're only, they're a little longer than a river boat. And usually, though, they just pack them with explosive and try to send them to Sevastopol. But lately, they haven't been getting halfway. The Russians are getting quite adept at sinking Ukrainian boats. They have actually decreased the number of drones, and Ukraine almost launched nothing today. Three long-range drones, what used to be called cigarette smugglers, by the way. Cigarette and alcohol smuggling is a huge problem now in Russia because of Putin's vice tax. But without the vice tax, which has actually hurt, you do know the decrease in alcohol consumption has hurt the Russian economy. You know, they cut alcohol, which is why the Russian economy actually shrank by 1% from 2019 to 2022. The Russian economy's retracted by 1% because of the massive reduction in alcohol consumption. But it's like anything. Eventually these things smooth out. This channel is sponsored by you, the viewing audience. So please visit Empire Valves. That's one word. EmpireValves.myshopify.com. Links in the description below. Get yourself a coffee mug to support the channel. But it's not just mugs. You got travel cups, water bottles, posters, more to come. Some brilliant artwork planned to, I think, 18th. I've got some, I should have some new products up and running by the 18th. Some of them are going to be time released, so I'm not going to I may sneak a peek at some of them when they're ready. But I've got bags coming, so, there's more to come. Right now, as of 8:45, it's usually 9 p.m. Ukrainian time, when they, 9 a.m. Ukrainian time, they report the drone count for the previous 24 hours. This time, it's 15 minutes early. I wonder why. Is that because Ukraine launched a failed attack and they wanted to get the message out so that they didn't have to report it today? Or they have other things that they're scrambling. Now, here it says 116 drones, air defenses 109. Now they changed that to 180 and 209. But they still got the old story. I still got the old story up. So it does change every hour. But they're saying, detailed reports at 8:30. So there's no indication why they changed the time on reporting. But this is interesting. This is new. This is new. I did not see this earlier. However, this bar does change now and again. No, forget it. Oh, yeah, forget it. If it doesn't want to load, I'm not going to bother. If Putin is shifting position from liberation to defense, I told you for the last week, it appears that Russia is moving into a defensive position, that they're building their border. Although I have been wrong before, I've been saying this for the last 6 months at least, that they appear to be building a border. And this is taking time, however. And I thought it could take up to a year, given that the Ukrainians are not going to retreat from any positions. But Putin is expected to announce a response to the American, request that hostilities cease. But we have yet to see any. But of course the European response, oh no, you're losing. And Europe is not negotiating. You notice Europe, weeks before the Russians launched their annual nuclear response training exercise, that they raced in a whole bunch of Europeans lining up to be a delegation. But as with past EU delegations, it's all corruption. These bureaucrats, they sign up for committees and delegations all the time, and nothing happens. Delegation on wheat, a Congo on French cheese and French wine. It's just a bunch of corrupt university prats who do nothing but live off the backs of the hard-working farmers. And every year they announce new trade deals. It's like, oh, please, enough already, But politicians have got a politician. Otherwise, we'd think, Polly doesn't need to be there anymore, does he? Yeah, we've got too many politicians and people are starting to notice. That's a good thing. All right, so when you hear the words attack on infrastructure, yes, there are Russian drones that routinely hit trucks, petrol tankers. I think you call them. I don't actually know. What do you call? Do you call them gas? I don't know what they call. Just I know you call it gasoline, but it's not gas, by the way. Don't know why you call it gas. Someone will tell me in the comments below, maybe on one of the platforms. But this is a lorry. Well, actually, it looks more like a prime mover than a lorry, but yeah, probably written by someone in Britain. Now, a lot of Pravda is actually outside sourced, right? But here we go. It was an attack on a lorry. Yeah. According to the Kharkiv Oblast military administration on Telegram. Firefighters are working to extinguish the fire. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah. That's what an infrastructure attack looks like. It's very unfortunate, but that is the hidden cost of war. The civilian lorry drivers are, and thousands of them died during World War II, often unrewarded, unforgotten targets of military action. Now, it's the same with boats. We don't have much of that sinking either. But a lot of the attacks these days, trains and trucks, is at least one every hour in Ukraine is hit. It's the same with cars. We've heard of civilian cars being hit, But if you look carefully at some of the Ukrainian pictures next time, you'll actually see some of the blurring where they've had people cut out of the pictures. That's why sometimes I stare and look to see if there's any blurring. Like you can see the color shift there. It does look like they shadowed out something, but you never know. Could it be? Because look, where's that coming from? Someone has to be spraying that, right? Or is that smoke? You think? Look at the picture. You ever seen smoke like that or a fire like that? I don't know. Is that because of the cabin or the door? It's just something. My eyes are telling me there's an overlay, and I think, and you look, see, it's a weird black smoke. Yeah, it's like someone's overlaid or added the white from somewhere else, and I've never seen smoke act like that. I've seen foam. Well, maybe it's a different type of CO2 and it's been sprayed further back. I don't know, but that something's telling my brain's telling me there's something wrong with this picture, and if someone could spot it, tell me, explain, right, that it's been AI generated. A lot of them are. That's the problem. It's getting so common. Virtually need a AI detector built into your browser now. Now, these are file photos of Russian equipment. This is what a nuclear drill looks like. Very boring. A big old truck comes out of an underground bunker. They pop up at a location somewhere in the middle of nowhere, usually a fenced-off field. They'll open up the ground, put a canister in it, start the countdown timer. They won't drive off because they're not launching. But they'll assemble a missile for launching. But the launch site itself, these are the launchers and the launch site. The canister is just the beacon or whatever, the locator used by the missile for launching. Now, once upon a time, yes, these were big missiles and missile silos, but a lot of the missile silos are being closed and they're replaced with launch sites. And those launch sites, they still have all the electronics to guide, to program and guide the rockets, but more and more of them are smaller missiles launched off the back of these. But these are training missiles. They won't be launched. But 64,000 military personnel and over 7,800 pieces of equipment, including 200 launchers and more than 140 aircraft, rolled into Belarus. Ukraine shat itself, had a big hissy fit that, they're going to attack Europe. You're going to attack Europe. And then someone must have called Zelensky and says, we're monitoring the situation. Shut the fuck up and put the phone down. They probably didn't even say who they were, right? But if someone's got Zelensky's phone number, they're important and they're over him. So Zelensky shut the fuck up about Russia attacking Europe. But the stories already went out. I had a good laugh at it. But, just shows you that Russia has a lot more troops, a lot more missiles up its sleeve, and that's the whole point of the exercise, that they have this huge air force they're not using, this huge army that they've got to spare. So they're not worried about Ukraine. If they were, again, there's no attack from Belarus, everyone. There would be breaking news all around the planet. And I would be telling you, I would say, hey, my newsfeed just updated. Russian troops cross the line. Nope. Not one single article. Oh, there was one here that I missed about oil refinery. The one successful attack by Ukraine on Russia. Lots of ads. Nothing about an attack from Belarus. And by now, the Russian troops are on their way back to their barracks. Now, defying Western pressure is pretty much what BRICS is, right? Bunch of nations infested still with the remnants of socialism being stoked by communist China. Russia has yet to wake up to the reality. And the reality is Beijing is, when they say cooperation, it's a one-way street. Russia's largest customer and economic partner and dependent on the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Now, these projects are claiming to make their economies immune from external pressure, advancing a more multipolar world order. But as more people wake up, realizing in the periphery of BRICS that this multipolar world means cutting ties with Washington and replacing them with Beijing, and finding that the Chinese interest rates are 2 points higher than Washington's, and that the cost of Shanghai cooperation means all your cranes are now Chinese, all your cars are now Chinese, all your boats are now Chinese, all your trucks are Chinese, and soon all your military equipment's Chinese, and sooner or later you wake up and realize the Chinese own every domestic industry. Uganda and many other countries are fighting back against this. Now, Russian leader has, of course, decided to hitch his wagon to Beijing long ago, and I think increasingly this might be his last term. It won't be the war. I don't think the popularity of the Ukraine war is very high in Russia. I think the thing that will end Putin will be the Shanghai Cooperation Agreement. I think many will realize that it's robbing Russia of the Siberian pipeline and many others which are coming under Chinese control or competition from China. The Russian railway, which was cut to accommodate the Shanghai Express, I think, Harbin Express. So, and now China, salty over China, wants Vladivostok back. Yeah, see this territory here south of the river? This was captured, although the Chinese forces held out here. But yeah, this was actually captured in the, I think, war against Japan. Why? Well, there's oil there. Japan, that was a Japanese island. It's been occupied since World War II. All of this region was once, I think, called Manchuria. Now, the Manchurians were not genocided, but they stopped using their Manchu names. Some live in Russia, some live in China, some have moved around the world where they still maintain their original family names, but a lot of Manchu either Russianized or Chineseized Quinn their name. They use the Quinn pronouncements of their names. China's real name is Quinn, and long ago the Chinese built an empire which is crumbling slowly, and it's been propped up by Russia. Without Russian oil, China would collapse. Without cheap Russian oil, I should say, and again without without at least getting 30% increase in, they say some parts 20. I think it's higher. I think in the last year trade between nearly 20% year on year. I think overall it's actually up 30% overall. They're underestimating for some reason here what the Russians announcing. But I think what they've done is is only focus on the oil. Now, if you cut out the oil, it's probably down to 20%. Oil sales by Russia in the last year have increased. Now, trade turnover is meaningless. The real trade, another meeting in November. Okay, so Russia's still got until November to get its act together. Now, the real trade is, and the reason why I say it's probably reported as lower, is because a lot of the oil that goes to China is exported straight to India, and some of the processing plants are privately owned. I'm gonna estimate that those 9 plants that China does not include in its GDP are a cooperation between China, Russia, and India, and maybe even Brazil. But it's hard to find out information on them because they are classified, but they are in also special economic zones. Now, you can't go a day ending in Y in the last month where there has not been an arrest in Ukraine for corruption. Today, it's a police officer, not just any police official. However, he's a senior Ukrainian National Police in the chief of Ivo Franzovsk and his deputy, as well as police chiefs in neighbouring regions. I've told you the amount of Ukrainians on OnlyFans dramatically increased since the start of the war. OnlyFans boomed. And a lot of them, the money doesn't go to the girls. The OnlyFans economy is collapsing, but OnlyFans has been making more and more money. Now, this is what Andrew Tate and others were accused of. Getting girls, most of them alleged to be willing. Now, when it came to Andrew Tate, why is he free? Because all the girls he allegedly trafficked said, nope, we did it voluntarily. We came to him. He had money. We had what he wanted. He treated us nicely. And when our time was up, we left with payment. But as you can see here, bundles of cash. You're not making big bundles there. It's telling you, right? This is what I keep saying. Why are so many people using OnlyFans? Look, you wouldn't be piling up huge amounts of money. Why? When there's so much other material out there. I don't get it, right? I do not get why people are paying such high prices for pornography. Now, here's the original story in Effects Ukraine. And there are, in fact, a lot of stories here. I might be using them to replace Pravda soon. Because at least, there's a lot less ads. But I think, I'd have to check. I can't remember why I didn't use them in the past. There's a lot of, I think it's because a lot of the stories are paywalled. And I think it was, you run into a limit on the number of free stories. But, they're calling it an enhanced security measure against the Russians. The Russians are coming, I tell you. Well, prove it. Otherwise, I'm going to call paranoia on your ass. Alright, so the Russian envoy to the United Nations called out Ukraine for not showing up at Geneva. Well, they did, but didn't. So Zelensky, did the usual thing where he says, "Hey, you talk to Putin. I'm too important." And Russia called them out. But Ukraine responded by demanding Russia be kicked out of the Security Council. So it's the usual barking dog. You know, yip, 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 yip. Nothing productive comes out of the UN, I tell you. The day they end the war, it would be a miracle. But that's the state of the Ukraine war. Lots of bullshit piling up. People are dying. A lot of innocent people are get caught up in this whirlwind. The Ukrainians won't get the vote, should have the vote. Whether or not this war continues, there's no resolution put forward on either side on a ceasefire. Ukraine won't put the Minsk Accords or any other treaty they have into practice, which is why we have the war, because Ukraine just keeps getting bailed out. It's like a drug addict. It's like a junkie, an alcoholic. You know, never give an alcoholic money. Never give a junkie money. They don't need food. They know where to get free food. It's the first thing they suss out is to get everything else free, so to make sure they have the most money for their habits. But I'm telling you, Ukraine, if Europe said, right, we're putting a limit, they would clean up their act. And they are not our friend. They're a leech that's slammed itself onto a leg, draining our lifeblood to fight its war against Russia, which would not have happened if they'd just, I don't know what kicked it off, but if they just stuck to the original plan they had to be a neutral country, to be a trade corridor, but someone decided to be corrupt and started stealing gas and oil from the pipelines, and from there it started with organised protests. But again, I smell a George Soros colour revolution, and 2014, and murders leading up to that, and attacks on ethnic Russians destabilised Ukraine so much that even today it needs a huge police force to go in, because there is just so much. Now, I'm not against pornography, but there is so much garbage that goes on in Ukraine with kidnappings and rapes and murders. It needs a massive police force. It doesn't need peacekeeping. It needs a toilet flush. You know, it's the crime around these industries that need. And as we see, the Ukrainian National Police is corrupt at the high levels. And Zelensky is just acting like, ooh, it's the Russians' fault. No, you kick the Russian you've been in power. After your first year in office, things start becoming your responsibility. I think you can only blame the Russians for the first year, where maybe you were naive, Mr. Zelensky. But after that, it's your own people. You appointed them. And most of the people you appointed are either in jail and on the run, on bail, in prison. And you just keep bringing in more. It's like, it's just, when will people realise that if you have 20 corrupt people all picked by the same guy, he shouldn't be there? He's either a very bad judge of character or corrupt. And Ukrainian citizens just don't want to know anymore. They don't care anymore. And the Ukrainian military is just as bad. They won't stand. They don't care about Ukraine's future. They care about their own pride and glory. And that's a very bad place to be for a country. And the thing is, Ukraine had so much potential, and it didn't need to be it didn't need to be part of the EU, right? But poor man syndrome, greed and envy, every time destroys something good, thinking that out of the ashes something better will come. Thank you for watching. Please like, share and subscribe. Please support the channel. You can support me on Ko-Fi, Patreon, buy my books, buy my merch. I appreciate each and every one of you. See you in the next video and bye for now.